Great. We can start the interview, Nicklas. So, welcome, Nicklas, to Metallarium Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about Defecto, this new album, Echoes of Isolation, and more things related to the metal world in general. So, we started by asking, how are you doing today, and how is the band during the last couple years? Because your previous album, Duality, was released in 2020.
That's true. I'm doing very good. We just had the release yesterday, and we held it in a movie theater for our closest fans, and it went very good. So I am very happy. And yeah, it's been a while since we released the third album. It's been 5 years. It's due to the pandemic thing and personal things, I guess we had to overcome before we were ready to, yeah, embrace the fourth album. So, but now we're ready.
Okay, okay. And well, let's talk about the composition process. When did you decide writing songs for this new Echoes Isolation? It was during the pandemic situation, and perhaps do you rescue any composition that led without for the previous album?
Well, I decided that I was ready for this album writing process back in, I think it was summer last year or something, and then I wrote the album in 2 months or something. So that's just, but
Mhm.
that's that's how it is with me. Like I'm when I'm not feeling ready, I can't do anything creative, but when I feel ready, it's just it's a tsunami of creativity. So I'm doing like when I'm ready for something, I'm just focusing all my time on that. So when I wanted to write this new Defecto album, I just put every hour into it, and then it went pretty quickly. So yeah, for me, it's just important to be ready for the action before doing it, you know?
Mm, okay, I understand this one. And oh well, and this one thing that is special thing about this Echoes of Isolation, it is because it is your first album with one of the big labels that is Frontiers Music. The previous one it was with a smaller label, Black Lodge, but now we have this new household. And this one, how it was the enter to the big label in this situation.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's cool to be with Frontiers because it's really a big label, and we have some opportunities now that we didn't have before. Like now we kind of feel the support from yeah, bigger labels, so we are being taken more seriously, you could say. It sounds weird, but that's kind of how it works. So if you're with a big label and you have a booking agent, people are listening more to what you're doing and what you're putting out there. And with Frontiers, we are getting listens and interviews like this and reviews from all around the globe that we didn't like get before. So in that regard, it's way cooler and so much more important for us to yeah, just pursue the music now that we have the support from them. Yeah, because Black Lodge wasn't a very big label. And yeah, Frontiers, I guess it's the first real label that we have with Defecto. So it's pretty cool to see how it goes from now.
Okay, okay. And one thing that captured my attention, especially about the name, is
Mhm.
defecto, because the defecto is like the Spanish name, if I will correct in the situation. So why do you decide to put this kind of name when you are from Denmark?
Yeah, it's funny. We didn't know it was a word. So we were like we had a bunch of names written down back in 2010 or something, and we were like, oh, okay, we want a name that's easy to pronounce in every language. We want something that is not too far down in the alphabet, and de facto just sounded very easy to say in all languages. So we didn't really think too much about it. We were just four young guys deciding on something, whatever, you know. And then we found out that it was a word, and we were like, oh, well, we guess it doesn't matter. So it was just totally random back then, actually. Just stuck with
Oh,
it.
oh, okay, okay. Okay, now also another thing that is this album has is the presence of one of the biggest creators, cover art creators that are design creators. So it's a great cover art for this new album. So in this kind of situation, how do you relate the concept of the music with the concept of the lyrics and obviously with the concept of the cover art?
Well, I had a very clear vision from the get-go that I wanted to write about these mental issues, and disorders, you could say, and I just wanted to include as much as I could into the same theme. So when I wrote to Giannos from Remedy Art Design, who made the front cover. I was being very specific in what the album was about, and I sent him the songs and I sent him the lyrics too, so he could kind of maybe feel and read what I was going on about. And he just nailed that vibe pretty much. It's a very pretty cover, but it's still a very confusing cover, and it has this some sort of weird atmosphere that I think fits very great into the whole theme, I think. So I was just trying to be very specific in what I was trying to achieve, I guess. I think we nailed that part.
Okay, okay. I understand for this one. Now, well, you said it. This album was released 1 day ago, so it was
Mhm.
released in October 31st. And how it was the reception until now for this new album? About talking about the reviews, about the comments of the people. For me, it's a great album because it's prog power with an old essence for especially for the end of the 90s or beginnings of 2000s.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, the reception has been great. It's been way better than we have experienced before, so we are very happy, all of us. We've seen a lot of very good comments on both YouTube, Facebook, and other social media. And yeah, seems like our fans are very happy too. Everyone is saying that we sound more matured or more developed, I guess. Which I can hear what they're saying. So I think that's very positive, you know. So they're kind of saying that it sounds like ourselves, but just in a more mature way. I'm guessing that's very positive. So everything we've read so far is positive. The reviews have been positive. I have not seen a negative review yet, but I guess it's still to come. But so far, it's been positive vibes all over. So that's very nice. Makes us very happy.
Mhm. Okay, okay. Now other topic that I'm checking here that your music is mixed and a progressive with power metal. That's a great mix about this one. So now, well, but other people say that you just only play progressive metal. So in this one, do you agree with this label, the progressive power or progressive metal just?
We talked about the genre thing many years ago actually in the band, and we were like people can call it whatever they want to call it, because we can't really call it anything ourselves because we don't want to put ourselves inside of a box. We want to be able to do all the things that we want. So if we want to do a jazz song, we can do that, you know. He just decided to just call it heavy metal. And I guess it's progressive power metal at some parts. It's progressive pop metal at some other times, you know. So people can say can call it whatever they want. I think progressive power metal this is okay fitting. I would maybe just call it progressive metal if it was up to me, but yeah. It's very subjective maybe. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, okay, that is right. So then this topic, well, you said it. You have 4 albums in your career with these new echoes of isolation. And for you, how many things changed the sound, the composition process, and more things related, compared with when you released your first EP in 2022, sorry, 2012, sorry.
Yeah, back then, I had it for the first album. It was kind of just a bunch of songs that I had written throughout my teens, I guess, that we put together and tried to make as good as we could. And so that was a whole different approach to writing an album. And the next one was kind of the same. Then Duality in 2020 was like a collaborative effort where the band was kind of writing everything not together but almost together. It was way more um, handed out to people what they would do on the writing process. Like I would do some songs, and Frederick, the other guitarist, would do some songs, and our bass player would do some things. You know, where it was okay. You know, it worked out. We are happy with the album Duality as well, but for me, it was like it was a very dragged out process. It took a while for that album to get done because of all the democracy within the band of, you know, everyone wanting to say something about everything, which is cool. But I was like, when we are doing our next album, we need to have someone driving the train and the other ones following along, if you know what I mean, so we can get out there and do something because we want more albums than one every 5 years. So for this one, this was a very different approach. We had that talk, and everyone agreed that it was probably for the best. So I took the train and I just started writing. and I sent the songs to them when they were done, actually. And then we talked about the songs at that point and did some things to the songs. But was mainly just me sitting down in my studio and just writing the whole album, getting the ideas down and recording everything actually. And then we discussed from there on, you know. So it was a whole different way of writing, and I think that has a lot to do with the maturity of the sound because it's a more focused direction because it's only made from one person, not only but almost, you know what I mean. So I think that is what kind of makes it more, yeah, just focused and mature, I guess. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, okay. Okay, so and this one I saw that you just this is the first album that because the first three album has just one word in the name of the album, excluded nemesis and duality. And now this is the first time that you use it at three words in the name echoes of isolation. So it means that you said it. There is a lot of thing for this new album, new changes, new label, etc. So and that's the reason that you decide completely change the focus of just one name and put three words in the name of the album.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and nice noticed. That is completely correct. Like we did that on purpose for the other albums. We were like, okay, just one word, that's cool. But for this one, I wanted it to be more it should be more just not personal, but more descriptive of what the album is actually about. And that was very difficult to find one word for.
Oh, okay, okay, I understand, I understand. So, well, in this kind of situation, let's talk about some a different kind of topic, especially what about perhaps do you hear about the situation of synesthesia when the people hear the music and see colors and smell tastes and see all smells and the situation the sensitive thing about when they hear music. So if we relate this topic with the echoes of isolation, what kind of colors tasted and smells that the listeners will find in this record.
I don't know about smells and taste, but the the colors would probably be a lot of gray and black and dark blue. That's my feeling about the album. It sounds very dark and negative, but it's a very positive but negative album. You know what I mean? Like it wants to do something positive on some very kind of not negative but taboo kind of topics. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, for me, it's a very dark lyrical album, but with hope. So for me, I would say it's some pretty dark colors, but with some sunshine on the top, I guess.
Mm. Mm. Okay, and one thing that you said that this album sounds a little dark. Well, for me, when I take a look about this style, progressive power or pro power, this one, it's very difficult to sound dark. Just I remember just one album from Evergrade in some parts has a little dark. But either way, mostly of the progressive power is very difficult to sound power. And for this, how do you approach this concept of the darkness or the obscurity in an album when obviously the riffs, the rhymes for a progressive or power metal always has a different kind of vibe?
Um, yeah, I'm not quite sure I understand the question. Could you try
Okay,
me again? Sorry.
don't worry, don't worry. So how can you approach this concept of darkness when the
Mm.
riffs or with the schemes when a song is a different way to present the darkness? Because when I hear obviously darkness, I relate it all the time with the more the extremist, more the extreme metal stuff like black
Yeah.
metal or death metal.
Yes, okay, I get it. Yeah. I think when I'm saying dark, I kind of mean the lyrical theme. For me, it's not so dark. It's maybe more aggressive actually, our music in the album and not very dark in particular. But for me, darkness comes from the lyrical universe. And the attitude comes from the music. Because if you talk about dark instrumental music, like that's more black metal thing. That's correct. Yeah, so I don't know. I wouldn't describe our music as dark, but just mostly the lyrical themes, I guess.
Okay, okay. Well, now, as you can see, there is like the 30 or 40 releases per weekend. Each weekend we have that one. And with this record, in Metallica we did, for example, like 40 reviews just for albums releasing in October 31st. That's so impressive. That because now the world works different. works differently compared to the 80s or the 90s. And for you, what special has this Echoes isolation compared this a tons of releases per weekend? For me, it's a great album, but if we compare with this with massive releases nowadays, so there is a few people that get attention for a specific style. It's like a niche now.
Yeah, it sure is. Yeah, I hope that people will hear it and think it's special because of the lyrical universe and the writing, but also because we're trying to do we're doing something with the styles that's not being done every day. I think that we are kind of combining very technical riffing and very technical phrases in general in the music with something very melodic. Like I think it's a good combination of the open epic melodic stuff from Dream Theater and the more power thing from Symphony X combined with some Devin Townsend. And I think it's kind of a unique mixture because we also throw in some Metallica here and there, so we still have that and some aggressive vocals going on that you usually not are not hearing in other progressive things. So we're kind of doing this mixture of sounds that I hope people will find unique and therefore see us in the crowd of so many releases because you're right, there are many releases all the time.
Hmm. Okay, and one thing that you said it that captured my attention since the beginning, and your band is like a few in Europe that plays like the harder way in the progressive power metal. You are more harder, you are more tough when we were spoke about your music. But that kind of music belongs to you said it, the influence for Symphony X or for bands like playing prog power or progressive stuff from the US because the progressive stuff or the prog power in Europe are more melodic, are more different kind of approach. It's more melodic than the stuff than the well than the top thing for the from the USA. In this one, why always in this kind of stance as you listen both sides for the progressive because in some ways of this album I hear some influence from Evergreat, a little melodic stuff. So why always this situation in America in Europe in European bands related to the progressive or power metal has this approach more melodic or more this kind of influence, a more different kind of vibe from the USA.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like it's very clear when you hear a progressive metal band from in either the States or
Mhm,
Europe. You're right. And I think my thing
mhm,
is that I just love it all. So I
mhm,
just kind of want to be somewhere in the middle of that. So I'm always trying to catch the aggressive US thing in the verses and in the main parts of the riffing things, but then go to the European side when it comes to the choruses. So I love these open grand choruses, and I'm looking at Europe, and then I want the very aggressive things. I'm looking to the States, trying to find somewhere in the middle.
mhm.
Hopefully it works out. I don't know.
Okay, okay. Well, other details related to the progressive stuff, it is, for example, the mathematical topic. That's completely normal. When you play a lot of technical or progressive music, you need to focus in this part on the mathematical. How many riffs enter in this part, the chorus in this part, etc. That's completely. But at the same time, as a musician, when you said it, when you receive a bunch of ideas in one time and you can completely create the sounds at that moment, and that's part of the feeling of the sensation of when you create a new album. So for you, which part is the most important thing when you create music? It is the mathematical stuff to stop some parts, or is the feeling stuff when you feel that this riff is belongs to this part with some numbers there.
It's always the feeling part. And then I throw in some mathematics, I guess. I
Mhm.
never sit down and think about, okay, I want to do something in 7/8 or 7/9 or something crazy. I never do that. But I have a riff, and then I'm thinking, okay, we could do something progressive here. Let's add a half bar or something stupid. And I'm just doing that for fun. So I'm just throwing things in there. I never sit down and calculate things. I just like kind of add or subtract some notes here and there, and it ends up being progressive. So we have and especially when I'm going for from a verse to a chorus or something, I like to have a cool transition that is out of the ordinary. So instead of like Yeah. I kind of always I want to have people I want to help people go from the verse to the chorus, but
Yeah.
I also want to fuck it up a little bit. So I'm kind of like I'm holding their hand, but I'm maneuvering over them over a wild sea or something, and then over to the chorus. You know what I mean? It's not very easy for them to go from part A to part B, but it's still easy. It's very difficult for me to explain actually because I'm kind of making music that's very easy to understand, but I'm kind of placing some progressive bombs along the way.
Okay, okay. So, and well, let's go far away a little more longer for this technical stuff, especially with the new musicians. You can see that, and now there's a ton of great musicians,
Mm,
players, drummers, bass, singers, etc., etc. And mostly now the people are focused in to sound amazing in the record, sound so perfectly because now with these 40 releases or more, we don't have bad records now. It's impossible to find a sound with a bad record, with a bad musician, because in with technology we can do better, better and better and
mm.
each time. And for you, what do your opinion have for this now, for the especially for the metal scene has in the world, that all the musicians sound so technical, so perfect, so good. There's no bad records now.
Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah. Well, it becomes a problem when you see people live that you expect to play super good, and then you find out that it's just a studio magic trick. That's a real issue. But you can't tell before you go and see them live. Um, I think it's yeah, I don't know. It's difficult because you're right. Everything sounds so perfect now. It's all well mixed, and you don't want to make any mistakes on a record, and it's sometimes it's a bit sad and becomes a bit sterile. But I can't say anything about it because I'm kind of pursuing it myself. But what I'm trying to do with our music is that I'm trying to play most parts of the songs in one go. So but I don't think that's the thing that people are doing. Um, so I don't know. Yeah, I guess you should go and see the favorite players live and see if they can actually pull it off. Then they're great.
Great, great. Well, either way, I understand completely about this one. So now, other topic that is completely now handled, especially for the fans, is that the people believe that the underground still exists compared to the 80s or the 90s. Because I was in the 80s or the 90s. Remember the tape trading, remember the CDRs, because there is no the here in Latin America the things works differently than Europe. So in this situation, so now, but the people believes that still this underground scene exists with tape trading, with signs and etc. or DIY. That's completely normal in many ways at that moment. But do you think that but you do you think that the underground exists nowadays when there's a lot of technology? Because when you can hear when you want to hear a band from I don't know from Greenland or for Japan or I don't know for an unknown country now, you can just click on Spotify or any digital platform and you can hear it. The underground disappeared with that moment because the essence it was a tape trading. Nobody knows that record at that moment. I remember my friend has a band at that moment and shared me with it their tape. And mostly we have just 50 people that hear that record. Nobody nobody knows about that band now. But now you can hear a band for unknown country and in 1 second.
Hmm. I find that very, very cool and very difficult to stand out from. So it's a nice way for bands to be heard everywhere around the world. Especially bands that do not have the money or capacity to get a label or a signing or an agent or something like that. We have been struggling with that ourselves. It's costing a lot of money to have a band, and you don't get any money to play live and all that stuff. So being able to put your stuff on social media and streaming services is extremely valuable, but it also ends up being, yeah, a needle in a haystack with music. So I see it as a very positive thing, but also a very difficult thing. But in general, I like the idea of streaming and the idea of being able to get out with the music, even though you're on Anactus or wherever you are. But yeah, it's a difficult topic because I think it's very subjective to what people think about all that. But yeah, I just for me, it's very. it's very important for me to write music and get the music out to people.
Mhm.
So if I couldn't do that because yeah, I was in some country and whatever, I didn't have the capacity to that, I would be very sad about that. So for people to get their music out, even in difficult situations, I think it's very good for them and very positive.
Hmm. Okay. And one of the last questions for this interview, Nicklas,
Mhm.
and this one, so a lot of things change within music industry in all ways, not just the mainstream music or the metal scene. And but because now the digital platforms, a lot of people just want to hear just music in digital stuff, not physical records. There's too many bands, too many releases. There's a lot of festivals in Europe during the summer, and etc etc. Now, how many things will you have so if you have the opportunity to change some things with the music industry now, and how is promoted, how is now the music industry, how many things will you change in now in this actual world compared, for example, for the old days, and bring back this kind of situation for the people?
Yeah, that's very difficult. I think I would a cool thing would be, and that's a totally like that it cannot be that way, but it would be cool if there was kind of a not a gatekeeper, but a quality checker for everything that you put up on streaming services, so everyone couldn't just upload shit, but there was actually some kind of quality service. So, you know what I mean? And so all the AI stuff would be trapped as well and couldn't go online. That would be cool. And it would be cool too if uh, if a few guys did not own all the festivals,
Mhm.
because that's a very big issue. Like, you know, you have all these festivals and it's only a few people that actually control these festivals. So you always have the same bands everywhere. And I find that as a, you know, that's a big flag. We've been trying to get on Sweden Rock and Wacken and all these festivals for so many years. And I think that we, especially back when we supported Metallica and Rammstein and we played festivals around Europe, we had something going, and we should have been on more festivals because we had a name hyped at that time, but we could not get in because we weren't on the correct label. That was almost the exact words that we got, you know, because we did not work with the label that had a deal with that festival, and then we could not get like on. And that's a very big annoying thing. That would be nice if that changed.
Mm. Okay, okay. Well, Niklas, we are right to the sad moment of this interview. Thank you very much for your time. This record is really a great one. Congratulations on this new one. Eh, and perhaps you want to add something to your Latin American fans and obviously Metallica followers.
Yes, yes, I would very much I'm just happy that we have fans all over the world, and yeah, just please support the band by just streaming and saying hi now and then in the comments. That'd be great. Like it's just we appreciate every interaction, so that's very cool.